What I think I should tell to you is, of course, something about our federation, then our e-invoice model. Of course, I come from infrastructure department. I always like to show some statistics as well. Sorry about that. Then one study we made with SMEs, what we did with direct debit, and finally what we will do next phase. But let's start with federation a little bit. Federation of Financial Services. It's like, I think you have Bankers Association. I lobby on behalf of banks. I have my bank hat always. So I talk about that. We are joined together with insurance companies and other financial institutions. So that's why we have this little bit difficult name. Our mission nowadays is that we try to make sure our members have a good way to make a profit to help society and be part of a Finnish community. And as we are now in SEPA, we don't have so much domestic standards anymore because we are using international standards. So nowadays we focus more and more to help public authorities to be more e-environment. We have e-identity, we have invoicing and other stuff. But I skip the rest of this federation stuff and go to statistics. I try to do it a little bit shorter. As you know, we are a very large country. We have a lot of forest, as I learned yesterday. You have as well. We have little more lakes than you, a couple. And we live very far from each other, less than 20 people per square kilometer. So one there and one there. So that's our country. And if you look at it as a payment point of view, it's like our infrastructure is half credit transfer and half card payments. We only had 8% of direct debit, so it was only credit transfer and payments. We are 5.5 million people, and we have 6 million bank IDs. What does it tell us about us? It tells about us that everyone has at least one bank connection, but probably 2 or 3. So everyone has connection to their banks. We have 56 million online payments and 47 million IDs, bank ID transactions. That means that if I want to go to tax authorities and give my tax declaration, I use my bank ID to identify myself. So we use our bank IDs and online banking very heavily. Sorry, there is something in Finnish, but I try to translate it. The latest statistic from our post office is that now in consumer e-invoice or electronic invoices is half and half is paper. So we are now half of electronic in consumer part. What happens when we do our yearly statistic or study about how people pay their bills and how they save and things like that, we notice that people who has online bank, these 6 million agreements, 62% already accept e-invoices. So we have quite good start with this consumer invoicing. And when we go to corporate, it's 72, I think it's now over 80% of corporates are using e-invoice. So I think what we have done past 10 years is now coming to reality. I think this is my last statistics, bear with that. Banks, there are business case. Nowadays we have, last year we have 68 million e-invoices going in banks network. What we didn't thought so well was that consumers come very slowly. You can see it's 2007 we introduced consumer e-invoice, and it takes almost 7 years before consumers start to use it. Of course, we made a decision at the beginning that we start with P2P, because we know there is knowledge, there is professional workers who know what's invoices and what's going on. But still, I think, at least I'm surprised it takes so long with the consumers. That was a statistic part. But then let's go to our Finvoice model and what banks, because when I talk of Finvoice model, I talk what banks have done together. And Finvoice is the common standard in Finland. And our association or federation is maintaining that standard. It's my job to maintain that standard and agreements between banks. So we started 2003. And why we started it was that we already did long before that account statement and things like that. And the corporates came to us and said, could banks do the format, because we can rely on your way to do it. We know you can maintain it as well. If it's some independent company, it can go down or sell or whatever. So would banks do this? And we said, okay, we do it. We do a simple invoice, very small one. And what happened was that after we released it, the companies came once again to us and said, oh, that's not enough. We want to have this information, and electricity companies need that. And that's why nowadays our standard is quite big. It has, if you look in Excel sheet, it has 800 rows. So you probably find good place to put your data in. And now we have our official Finvoice standard, but also these sector-specific guidelines, how different sectors, for instance, insurance companies use Finvoice. But it's always, the top is our official standard and the add-ons on the sector specifics. When we started, we decided that, okay, we should make this e-invoice as a payments. It's a network business. The banks have four-corner model in there. First of all, we have this framework agreement with federation, and only banks and payment institutions can join to this Finvoice framework. That's because we are using our old payment network, and no one else gets license to come in that network. Then the banks have bilateral agreements. They decide when they send the files and different protocols and things like that. And finally, all customers have agreement with his or her own bank. And we did it because we want to make sure that we know who is sending what to where. There are no fake invoices in this network because we have agreement with the end user. And that's one one benefit or something that banks have. The customers trust you, so you should make sure that your new products is based on that trust. Nowadays, banks offer quite a lot of tools to their customers, both consumers and also to corporates. They have SMS messages to pre-note the consumer that your invoice has come to your online banking. Would you like to accept it and pay on due date? Press A. They just press A or send a SMS back, and they will execute that order on due date. Of course, banks offer quite a lot of tools to corporate as well. They have online banking where you can type your invoices and receive your invoices. And when you receive an invoice or make an invoice, you can send a copy to your account office so they can make your bookkeeping on time. So there is quite a lot of new business case or new services that banks can offer to their clients. Okay, there are other players than banks as well. We have operators, and they have their own network. But there is a very good cooperation between banks and e-invoice operators. They use same standard as we have, and of course the operators have their own standard as well. Only different is that if you send your invoice to bank's network, the bank will distribute it to the rest of the banks. But in operators model, the operators always have direct connection to the bank. So that bank won't send it to the other banks anymore. That's the only difference between bank's network and operators model. I think what we did well was that we used XML at the beginning. We didn't introduce any PDFs. And the second thing I think what we did well was that we used same format to B2C, B2B, B2G. It's the same thing always. We have this standard, we have common terms and conditions, and then it splits at the end to consumer or to corporate. What difference there is that corporates have this common register or addressing register where they can look others' e-invoice address. Consumers don't publish that kind of, or we as a banks don't publish that kind of information. And that's why we have created message in our web bank so that when I want to have e-invoice from my mobile phone operator, I just click it in my web bank, and the bank will generate the message to my operator and telling my e-invoice address. So consumer don't have to remember it or send it to email or something like that. You can send it via your online bank. Okay, as a standard people, I like to have something telling about what's Finvoice. We have an envelope where is just a normal envelope. Who is sending to whom? We have basic invoice lines telling that due date is that and the amount is that. Then there is invoice rows, posting proposal. You can have attachments or links, and then the AP part, payment part. And if you look at it, it is same as SEPA credit transfer. That's main thing. Our corporates liked it so much they didn't want to go to SEPA direct debit. We have made quite a lot of tools and technical files, and it's on our web page free of charge to help corporates to start with e-invoicing. A little bit about links. These are very common, especially for consumer invoicing. You can have links to your catalog, links to your home page, or links to your e-invoice archive. So when consumer is looking on her online bank, the invoice, he can go and press online shop, and as when I press it, the online shop already knows it's me coming, and you have agreement with, for instance, internet connection. Would you upgrade it, or would you buy something more? So these are quite popular for the corporate's point of view. But we know for facts that consumers just say that, okay, I'm checking my bill and pay it. I don't care. I pay my bills, and then later on I will go and maybe buy more or do something else. You have to think about a consumer's point of view. They just want to deal with this payment part and do something else. So, some experience. Now volumes are quite nice. What I think is that even the addressing message is quite nice with this e-invoice for B2B. There might be other ways to solve it. Maybe because we have general directory about VAT IDs, we would like to have our e-invoice addresses for corporates as well there, so we don't have to maintain different catalogs for B2B. B2G is business as usual. It was already 2009 when State of Finland said that we only accept e-invoices. So it started to make pressure to SMEs and corporates. And B2C, there now 50% is already in, so it's quite a normal thing to do or receive invoices. Funny thing is, what we noticed was that consumers like to pay 5 days earlier when they receive e-invoices, as if they receive paper invoice. We don't know why, but corporate point of view, it's quite nice to have 5 days extra cash flow. So it's something maybe that you just want to, when you have seen, okay, there's an invoice, okay, I paid, I don't have to worry that anymore. But it's one benefit which come maybe a little bit a surprise to us, but good for it. When we started with B2B, we noticed that very small companies, SMEs, said that it's only stamp. Why bother? It's no use to, stamp is not so expensive. Why bother to change to e-invoicing? And of course there was questions, is it really so green? You said it is. So we decided to make a study. And what we did with university, Aalto University, was we noticed that CEOs don't think green, sorry guys. You think how your turnover is, where is the profit? And after that, you think, can it be green? So we make a study about what happens in invoice lifetime. and how it affects your service, your productivities, and environment. First, we make a study what's outgoing in invoice handling processes. And I think every corporate should do this as well, to notice what's happening in your companies. And we figure out what's manual and what can be automated or do electronically. Quite a lot can be done electronically or automated, actually. And always we are, at least in Finland, they said that sending an invoice isn't any worthwhile because there is no cost savings. Receiving, you can automate different things. But here we see that you can even automate or make it electronic outgoing invoices. Same happens when you, of course, much more happens if you automate or make it electronic, these incoming invoices. And that was the first part. Second part was that we asked one entrepreneur to timing every step. She was timing everything what she did, how much time she spent on accepting invoice or archiving it or put it on an envelope and things like that. And it was quite surprised to all of us that if you have 500 invoices, you can save time 45 hours. It's 1 week, almost, working time. It's 1,400 euros. So you should make these studies with your own company. What's coming in, how you do it. Because we know that there is a lot of ancient history things which companies are doing because always we have to do this. And nowadays maybe your government says that you don't need to do that anymore. So if you streamline it, you can save a lot of time. Of course, we calculated to our working hour average. I don't know what's in this country, but probably the same, I would figure. And next, what we discovered was that, okay, we can same time save cost, save time. These people can serve their clients or do whatever better. And this carbon footprint will go down. So CEOs can say, oh, we are so green. You don't even think about how green we are. But that comes in your agenda, the latest, but maybe your customers think that's the main thing to do. No reason why you do it, because this says that actually E-invoice is 4 times environmental friendly. You save time, you save cost. What more you need to go to E-invoicing? And SME says, okay, now I understand. Now we can turn to E-invoice. This study you can find it in our webpage as well, if you are interested in it. Okay, we are 100% SEPA compliant already. We were 2011 with the credit transfer, and this year with direct debit. But we didn't go to SEPA direct debit as such, because we have this SEPA forum where were authorities, there were corporates, there were IT vendors, and they all says that we won't go to direct debit anymore. We want to go forward. We noticed that SEPA direct debit was so different from our domestic old direct debit. And we decided together with authorities and corporates that we won't convert these mandates to SEPA mandates. Of course, we told our customers that, okay, if you have cross-border direct debits, then you should use SEPA direct debit. It's a wise thing to do. So we replaced our mandates to e-invoice and new direct payments. I tell later a little bit what's direct payment. And what banks offered, they said to corporates, okay, if we go in that direction, we can offer you conversion services so you can send us your mandates and we will convert it to e-invoice addresses and direct payment addresses. So it was quite easy for payers' point of view. We only sent a letter to our consumers telling if it's okay with you that we will replace your direct debit to e-invoice or direct payment, you don't have to do anything. And they didn't. Only what have to done is creditor side. And that was something that make e-invoice more popular. For instance, new sectors like gym clubs and things like that, which were before using direct debit or just sending paper invoice. So, what we did, corporate only use one program, same as they do when they say invoices to B2C, B2G, B2B. It's always the same e-invoice. And if consumer is using online banking, it goes to the consumer's online bank. If you are elderly people or you don't have access to internet, you don't have online banking, it's still the corporate will send e-invoice to the bank. And same time, the corporate sends pre-notification to the customer saying, this will go on due day to your account. So it's SEPA direct credit transfer and e-invoice. That's all what you need to have. Future development. Probably I have a little bit time. Yeah. Okay, now we have SMEs on board. What happened next was that our State of Treasury says that it costs 40 euros to have a paper invoice, so we don't want paper invoice. It costs us 10 euros to process e-invoice to our system, incoming invoice. It costs only €1 if we can match it automatically. So we want to go to that €1. And of course, if we think about public administration, I rather pay with education and healthcare than people doing invoicing. So it's quite natural that you go and try to help public sector to do something more. They want to automate this. And same time, State of Treasury says that if you send us e-invoice, we pay 10 days earlier than paper invoice. So that was quite good offer to corporates. And what we noticed was that e-invoice contained all that necessary information. You can reuse that information and automate your processes. You can match it on order, or agreement. You can create VAT reports, other reports like Eurostat or custodies. You can automate your accounting quite heavily. And if you combine your e-invoice and your account statement, you can automate your accounting process even more. So this is something we are doing now to think how we can reuse this XML, what we have done. And that's why I told you that luckily we didn't choose PDF, because PDF we can't create anything else. It's only picture. But structured data, you can build something on top of it. Couple other examples. This shadow economy or gray economy. Even it's not so high in Finland, we know there are sectors where that exists. Mostly sectors where are a lot of people working, like construction sector or restaurants, things like that. And what government told us is that, okay, 1st of July you need to report all your invoices or amount of your invoices in construction sector. Of course, they won't send any invoice to the tax authorities. But what they did and will do next month is that we use invoice information. We can have their seller, buyer, VAT amounts and total amount, and create report to the tax authorities. So you don't have to do so much new stuff or add this burden to these companies and still get something done with these grey economy fields. Same time, we did actually study or how to map. We know what information is on invoice. We know what information goes to separate credit transfer, what information goes to the bank and comes back to the account statement, and what are these information elements that you can use when you automate your accounting. So we believe that e-invoice is only the first building block, the first block where you can invent and do other stuff quite easily. I think I'm done now. Any questions? Thank you.
The implementation of the business to government e-payments, e-invoices, was set up in 2009, as far as I understood from your presentation. Was it a big milestone?
No, because, okay, we think that B2B and B2G is the same. The government shouldn't have anything extra demands as normal government. It's no use to have, we as a government would say that we want to have this information, otherwise we won't accept it. If corporates can accept these e-invoices, the government can accept it. So that's why it's quite easy, so we don't have that extra burden for B2G.
Was there any resistance before the implementation of the mandatory B2G e-invoicing?
Of course, there were some SMEs who says why we should go there. But at that point, the Ministry of Finance published a letter telling that, okay, 40 euro, 10 euro, 1 euro, where you want to have your tax money spent, you should go to e-invoicing. And of course, government offer web portal when the SMEs can send their invoices free of charge.
Are there any estimations made? Have there any estimations been made on how much the Finnish government saved, the public sector saved money? How much money did they save because of the fact that the B2G e-invoicing was introduced?
I think they sent 10 million invoices.
How much money did they save? Are there any?
But if you think about if they save 20 euros, do the math.
Yeah, okay, so it's quite some money.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's funny because if you say to someone that we have saved 500 million euros, but if you say to corporates you can save 1,000 euro, they listen that more because it's their own money and they can understand 1,000, but I don't even understand how many zeros is 500 million or something like that.
I understand. Now, for instance, let me say I run a business.
Yeah.
I make about, let's say, 9 million euros revenues. I have about, it's a business quite spread out. I have, let's say, 20,000 clients.
Yeah.
And I'm invoicing them. 10% of my clients are from the government. And of course, there's B2B more or less, and also B2C. How much money will I save? How much will I be able to increase the profit next year if I go all electronic?
I think it was Pilentis who has estimated that corporates can save up to 1 or 2% of their turnover by turning to e-invoicing and automating these processes.
1%? So what you're telling me is that I'm going to have 1% more profit?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Did the B2G implementation of the e-invoicing, has it contributed to wider acceptance and use of B2B in electronic invoicing?
Yes, of course it has, and now you all have noticed that the latest EU directive for e-procurement, so that governments, if they order something, they should demand e-invoice. I think that helps B2B grow as well, because if SMEs need to do something to invoice government, they suddenly notice that why not to do it to the rest of the guys.
Okay. So B2B now in Finland, and you showed some statistics. I mean, is it going fine?
Yeah. It's over 80% of corporates are using e-invoice. Of course, you have to think about sectors. If you run a hotel, you probably won't e-invoice me. You want to have my credit card before I leave the hotel, so you know that I will pay my stay in your hotel. But if you normally send invoices, now they have so many good tools and good programs for SMEs, for instance, that they rather go to beach and have coffee and just press their mobile phone and accept invoices, than type them in the office.
You know,
at least in Finland it was only 8 degrees, so probably they stay
8 degrees?
Yes,
today?
Yes, today, so they probably stay inside, but still you can have these new tools, and when they offer things in cloud service, so you can be wherever you are. You can be at your summer cottage and send invoices or receive invoices.
Look, but those invoices, e-invoices. I hate printed invoices. I hate e-invoices. I hate the mobile phone you can pay with. I hate credit cards. Pirjo, I love cash. Oh. Am I very old? I love to have 500 euros in my wallet because then I feel safe. Am I really old-fashioned?
Yeah. Sorry.
But is it?
I don't know, but in Finland we don't use cash.
Come on, cash is good.
Really?
Yeah, because you can feel it, you can touch it, you can smell it, you can pay, you know. You can give cash to the musician. Can you pay a musician with a credit card?
Nowadays in Finland, yes. They have these mobile apps where you can send them money.
Mobilized.
My daughter just paid one group with a PayPal some credit so that they can go on tour. So yes, you may be a little bit old-fashioned.
Where has all the cash Romans gone?
To our accounts.
To our accounts? Okay.
We don't, actually in Finland, quite a lot of people use less than 50 euros per week cash. We don't use cash. We pay with credit card, debit card, or with our internet bank. So when I go abroad, I probably take some cash with me, but normally I don't have any cash.
You pay a cup of coffee with a credit card?
Yeah.
How do you tip?
There is a...
I know how it is, but you know, it's not the same. It's not the same.
I can't help you. You're your own help.
Look, nevertheless, I wish you to have 500 euros in your pocket, and then you feel how good this is.
Yeah, because I will go shopping after this. But I hope they accept credit card as well.
Pirjo, it was lovely to have you here. Thank you very much, and we're going on.